Hi there, I'm Star Penn. I am your Leaky Gut coach and the creator and founder of the JIA Blueprint. And today I want to talk to you about anti-inflammatory diets and supplements and why they fail and what you can do instead. Okay, let's get into it. So many families are told, even now by their medical doctor, that it would be good or okay to go ahead and try an anti-inflammatory diet along with medication. And always as a disclaimer, I'd love to say that in the JIA Blueprint, we love our rheumatologists, we love the medication, especially if our child is in severe pain and now can operate and move while on these medications. That is always the goal and the reason why we would take them. We just don't want the medication to be the end all be all because what we do understand is that they only mask and silence the symptoms. They do absolutely nothing to repair the body and make your child healthy. And eventually, if the meds alone are just used, what ends up happening is the flares do come back and or other autoimmune, neurological, or hormonal conditions develop afterwards. And there are other videos that I have that explain why that is. And I'm sure I'll talk about that again at another time. But for today, what I want to talk about is why the go-to, the obvious gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, egg-free diet fails our children. Well, let's start with number one. It's not sustainable because our child will have to live like that forever and then live in constant fear of a potential flare moving down the line if they deviate from that diet. So there's a big difference between avoiding foods that maybe either trigger our child's autoimmune disease and or they got either just broad advice to remove those things and or a food sensitivity test picked those things up. Big difference between that and then actually healing the body so that they can eat all of these things. And that might seem like an impossibility at this stage, and I understand that, but that absolutely is the direction that we want to go. So, by simply eliminating, let's say, those four big ones that I mentioned, basically what you're doing is you're eliminating the foods that your child has been eating their whole life. And they're foods with pretty strong proteins. So, what has happened there is that these, we start with the leaky gut, the proteins get out into the bloodstream, and the immune system has already developed a pretty good response to these proteins and negative response to these proteins. Why? Well, because they're in the bloodstream, right? They're supposed to go in the mouth, through the gut, out the other end, and they are floating around in the bloodstream. And the immune system is like, hey, nay, nay, you do not belong here, as it should. So these are very common foods. Your child has been consuming most, if not all of these to some degree their entire life. So, yes, of course, when we remove these foods, things seem to get better for a time. Other things start to creep in, other symptoms, more joint pain over time. Why is that? Well, it's because we never really did deal with a few of the core root things that are going on in the body. Number one, the gut is leaking, right? So things are coming outside of the gut lining. So then why is it when we switch to an anti-inflammatory diet, symptoms seem to calm down? Well, we discussed one thing. We removed the foods that the immune system has already determined from uh, lots of exposure that this is an invader. So then we start to introduce new foods. Well, it's going to take the immune system some time, not a lot of time, to now interact with these new, it's not always proteins, right? Some new invaders in the body and kind of say, hey, what are you doing here? To where eventually it's going to start to send an inflammatory response, letting you know, hey, these invaders, they don't belong in here, and they're going to let you know via some sort of reaction from your child. Reactions could be histamine issues, could be skin issues, mood issues, joint and tissue and different autoimmune issues. It could be an array of things. So then we start thinking, oh, wow, like my kid has all this stuff going on. It's just the one thing. It's just the one thing that's going on. But it affects so many different mechanisms in the body that it's easy to, and we are not taught, our medical doctor, even our functional doctors aren't really thinking about this. We're taught to compartmentalize these things and see them as separate things. We play the whack-a-mole with the symptoms and things like that, treating them as completely different things. So simply by changing to an anti-inflammatory diet, we'll see a reduction of symptoms, but the only reason we're reducing symptoms isn't because that food was better, because people do different things and get better for a time, right? There's people who go vegan or, they switch to a paleo or Mediterranean, or they even go like a carnivore, and they all say they feel so much better. You might be familiar with the famous Michaela Peterson and her dad, Jordan Peterson, who I adore, both of them, and that she famously went on meat and salt and water, and that's all she eats for her rheumatoid arthritis. Interesting, her father has severe neurological disorders. The same thing, right? It's the same thing. And he too was eating nothing but red meat. I don't even think butter, but maybe in interviews I saw red meat, salt, water. Is that sustainable? Is that a way for our child to eat? And now just to see, just a year and a half, 2 years later, our beloved Jordan Peterson is having his back and having trouble. And that's because really anything that we do, and meat-based is great. There's so much benefit, nutrition in red meat that we can't get anywhere else. And we prioritize that in the JIA blueprint. But can you see how even with that, he had to live on such a restricted diet? We could never do that to our children. And even with that, his symptoms came back and he's not doing well. And I'm sure, they'll get him on a road to health, probably with some medications and different things, say road to health, maybe feeling better, right? This is what we want to avoid with our children, and we can see it playing out over and over and over again. So the key takeaway here is that simply switching the diet alone, which many of us are advised to do, the AIP diet or some sort of anti-inflammatory diet, we get temporary results. We think, oh, this might be it. We're in constant fear that it's going to come back. It actually does come back. Our child really never ends up feeling that much better. They definitely end up, eating these other foods anyway when they're out and doing different things, which that part we can't control. But I'll get into that and how our kids in the blueprint are able to cheat. And but we're doing the AIP, so we're just bringing down the inflammation. We're focusing on the inflammation, not the underlying root issues, the things that have caused the inflammation in the first place. I'm not going to go seriously deep into it in this video, but as a reminder, it's a leaky gut. It's malnutrition. Our child's gut has the microbiome balance is so off, they're not able to absorb nutrients from their food. They're malnourished. Because of the leaky gut and toxins getting out into the bloodstream, their detox organs are taxed. They are sluggish. They're not working. So our kids' body is kind of like a sewer inside. And then finally, this is kind of an all-encompassing, but I'm just going to say underlying infections, but that could be really anything from, it could be parasites, which, we don't put a lot of fear in on that. It could be underlying infections like strep or Epstein-Barr and, those types of things, E. coli in the body. And it could be things like heavy metals and mold. So when I say underlying infections, there could be an array of things going on here that we need to address. But anyway, those are the things that we need to affect, the things that we need to fix if we are going to have a shot at reversing our children's juvenile arthritis or any autoimmune neurological or hormonal issue. Okay, so those are the things that we really need to focus on. But the key takeaway here is that simply by changing the diet, None of those things that I just mentioned are even remotely getting affected. All we're doing is kind of short term tricking the immune system or, diverting it to, think that things are okay. But the immune system's always on the go. It's always looking for something to clean up. That's what it does in the body. So eventually, as it patrols the body, it's going to find these toxins in the body. It's going to find the food particles, the toxic load from, all of the different things that are going on in the body that are not supposed to be going on. And we are going to get another inflammatory response. And when I say inflammatory response, you're probably thinking a flare, a JIA flare in the joint, but inflammation is any signal from the body. It will look different for different organs and different body parts. That's why I say neurological, hormonal, and autoimmune, because all of these are flares in the body, inflammation in the body to let you know, the parent, hey, we found something here that doesn't belong here. And that's really what we need to be addressing, not just the inflammation. So what do we need to do? Right? That's your next question. What do we need to do? Well, we need to look at the body as a whole. And we need to realize that this is not a one and done type thing. Even, we just remove these foods, but we eat these foods and then just keep it moving. That is a combination for absolute failure. And what is so sad about that is that even just doing that, it's a lot of work and it's expensive. You're switching out these foods, and then when you go out with your child that they need these special foods, wouldn't you rather know that instead of the foods that you're feeding them, that it's just to not get the immune system's attention? Wouldn't you rather, if you were feeding them foods that help their body to be better detoxers, so that way they can clear these toxins out themselves, because they're exposed to the same toxins as you are. Why don't you have this? Or maybe you do. Right? Maybe you do. But, or something like, maybe you do have something hormonal, neurological, and autoimmune. It's the chances are there. So, but let's just say you don't. Well, because your body's able to detox these things out. They've had this problem since they're born. Maybe you've had this problem since you're 20. Maybe your parents have had this problem since they're 40. And so we're all getting this autoimmune stuff at the same time. Like the whole world's sick at the same time. Our whole country and kind of like the whole world. Okay. But their bodies are too small. They're too little to be able to detox all this on their own. How much better if you knew you were feeding them foods that were making them better detoxers? How much better if you knew for a fact that every day you were following a protocol that took care of all those underlying infections in the body in the background, just taking care of it? Because if you don't take care of those, you could seal the gut all you want. They're going to continue to tear it up. They're going to continue to steal your child's nutrition, right? So we need to be looking at all of these things. Yes, leaky gut has become a buzzword and people know about it, and that's great. But what do we have now? Well, we have leaky gut supplements and powders and things like that. These aren't foods. The body doesn't recognize a lot of this stuff. It looks good on stuff that looks good on paper, but it's not really healing our child. We're just spending money and spinning our wheels. How much better if you knew you were eating a diet with foods that would completely bypass digestion and help your child to absorb nutrients? How much better if you knew that your child was always eating foods that were rebalancing the microbiome and sealing and healing the gut lining? There's so many things. There's a lot of different things we need to do. So it's not just one thing, but we definitely aren't going to get there, I'm sorry to say, with an anti-inflammatory diet. All that is going to get us is a bunch of work on our end and back into the rheumatologist's office. And our child's going to end up sicker. That's down the road. Autoimmune diseases absolutely stack. Even if the juvenile arthritis did disappear, which I've never seen that permanently. But even if it did, what would end up popping up in its place, or where the immune system would decide to attack, it wouldn't seem to be connected, but it really is just the same thing. The immune system finding toxins somewhere in the body. So do they find them in the pancreas and your child gets type 1 diabetes? Do they find it in the kidneys? Do we end up with lupus? Do we find it behind the eye? Do we end up with uveitis? Does our child, when they start hitting their teen years, do they start having neurological and emotional problems? This a combination of the neurological and the way the hormones are affected by what's going on in the body. Everything is connected, you guys. It's all connected. And so I hope this is helpful to you. If you want more information about this, because I can only say so much on a short YouTube video and hold your attention. But if you do want more information on this, I have put together a free training. I have a book that I put together that I would be happy to share with you. Absolutely free. The book goes into great detail. The idea is that you can take that book and implement everything and then get some of the free training where I go so much deeper into all of this information. So I'll put that information below this video so you can access it. And then, you can always reach out to me. You can email me. I'll put that information there as well. All right. Well, I'm signing off. Star Pen, your leaky gut coach and the founder and creator of the JIA Blueprint. And if you're interested in finding out how you can work with me in the JIA Blueprint, again, just shoot a message my way. I would love to get on a call with you and see if your family, if it's a good fit for them, for all of you. All right. See ya.